Chosen one, you have no idea how closely heaven has been watching you. While everyone else only saw your silence, God saw your strength. While they saw you lose things, God saw you refuse to lose your heart. This wasn't just another hard season. It was an examination. Every delay, every rejection, every misunderstanding was part of a divine test. Not to break you, but to reveal you. You didn't even know you were being graded, did you? You just kept showing up with faith when it didn't make sense. You forgave when you could have fought. You prayed when you could have cursed. You stayed when others left. You chose peace over pride. And heaven took note of every single moment. God wasn't testing your talent, He was testing your temperament. He wasn't checking your results, He was checking your reaction. Because anyone can smile when blessings flow, but only the truly chosen can worship when the ground shakes. And that's what you did. You stayed kind when life turned cruel. You remained grateful when nothing was working. You kept your heart soft while walking through fire. That's why God is impressed, not with what you built, but with how you believed. Ask yourself, how many times did you cry in silence, but still whispered thank you? How many times did you lose what you wanted, but kept trusting God's will? That was the test. That was your proving ground. Heaven doesn't reward perfection. It rewards purity, and in this season, God saw a heart that refused to harden. You didn't pass because you were flawless. You passed because you were faithful. This message isn't just a reminder. It's a report card from heaven. And the grade reads, approved, prepared, promoted. So breathe, chosen one. You didn't fail, you passed. And now, the reward begins. Chosen one, this last season wasn't random. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't coincidence. It was a calibration, a divine test written in silence. And the remarkable thing is, you didn't even know you were being tested. God didn't send a warning, no announcement, no thunder. He simply observed, not your achievements, but your attitude. Heaven was never watching how strong you could be in public. It was watching how surrendered you would stay in private. The moments when no one clapped for you, when no one noticed your effort, when your prayers felt unanswered, those were the exact moments heaven leaned in closer. Because that's where true faith lives, in the quiet where no one's watching. You see, the test wasn't about what you would do, it was about who you would be when life stopped making sense. Could you keep believing when your plans fell apart? Could you still love people who misunderstood your heart? Could you stay faithful when blessings paused and silence stretched on? Those were the questions written in heaven's exam for your soul. And chosen one, you passed. Not because you were perfect, but because you refused to quit. You stayed in position. You stayed in peace when pressure tried to make you panic. You chose forgiveness when bitterness knocked on your door. You didn't let darkness change your light. Ask yourself, how many times did you want to react, but instead you decided to release it to God? How many times did you swallow pride and respond with grace when everything inside you wanted to fight back? Those moments weren't weakness, they were wisdom. That was your spirit choosing maturity over reaction. The hidden test wasn't about what you could earn. It was about what you could endure. Because promotion in the spiritual realm always follows perseverance. God needed to see if your heart could stay aligned with heaven when comfort was taken away. He needed to know you could be trusted with blessing without letting pride take root. That's why things slowed down. That's why doors seemed delayed. Heaven wasn't saying no, it was saying not yet. Because you can't pour new wine into an untested vessel. You are being strengthened in secret for what's coming next. The test came in many forms, through people who pushed your patience, through silence that tested your trust, through detours that tested your direction. You thought you were losing progress, but you were actually building proof. Every time you kept walking when you didn't feel God's presence, heaven wrote it down as faith. You didn't realize that angels were observing your reaction. Every tear was recorded, every sacrifice remembered. You didn't fail when you cried. You passed when you trusted anyway. You passed when you stayed kind after betrayal. You passed when you chose humility over validation. This is the mystery of divine testing. God doesn't test to expose you, He tests to expand you. He doesn't test what's weak, He tests what's ready. And if He tested your heart, it means your heart was strong enough to carry the next assignment. You've been walking through a season of unseen warfare, not against others, but against the part of you that wanted to quit. Yet every time you fell, you got up again. Every time doubt whispered, you answered with faith. Every time fear tried to freeze you, you took one more step, and heaven said, "That's my chosen one." Ask yourself, what did you learn about yourself during this test? You discovered that your peace was more powerful than pressure. You realized that silence doesn't mean absence. You began to understand that favor isn't just when things go right, it's when you stay righteous, even when they don't. This test wasn't meant to measure your strength, it was meant to prove your surrender. You didn't fight your way through, you faithed your way through. You didn't win by force, you won by stillness. That's what impressed heaven. So if life felt heavy, slow, uncertain, that was the exam room. The confusion wasn't punishment, it was placement. God was qualifying you for greater things by refining your heart through smaller ones. And now, chosen one, the test is complete. Heaven has recorded your endurance, your compassion, your restraint. You didn't let pain poison your purpose. You didn't let delay diminish your devotion. And that's why God is smiling on you right now. You passed not because everything went right, but because you stayed right inside when everything went wrong. The hidden test is over. The lesson was love. And heaven is proud of how you carried it. Chosen one. God wasn't watching how much you could produce. He was watching how much you could remain. The test wasn't about your results. It was about your responses. Heaven didn't care about the outcome as much as it cared about your attitude in the middle. You see, anyone can sing when life feels light, but only those who truly walk with heaven can whisper thank you when the world feels dark. Your reactions in pressure reveal your preparation for purpose. And in this last season, God was observing your responses to disappointment, delay, and discomfort. Not to punish you, but to prove you. You've been through situations that made you question, why me? You prayed, you obeyed, and still things fell apart. But here's what heaven saw. You didn't stop. You didn't turn bitter. You didn't curse God. You stayed steady when the storm tried to unseat you. You didn't pass this test by performing perfectly. You passed it by staying pure in posture. Ask yourself, how many times did you face unfairness, but still chose to walk in peace? How many times did you hold your tongue when your flesh wanted to defend itself? That restraint wasn't weakness. It was spiritual strength. That silence wasn't avoidance. It was alignment. Heaven applauded when you bit back pride and answered pain with patience. God tested you with pressure to see if peace had become your default. He let betrayal test your forgiveness. He let delay test your devotion. He let silence test your stability. And through it all, your heart stayed consistent, not perfect, but faithful. Heaven saw how you treated people who hurt you. It saw how you still gave, still prayed, still loved, even when your kindness was misunderstood. That's what impressed God. Not your performance, but your purity. When others were loud with ego, you stayed low in grace. When others cursed the process, you kept worshiping through it. This was the season where God wasn't grading your achievements. He was grading your alignment. Would you still trust Him when things didn't move at your speed? Would you still obey when obedience cost you everything? Those questions built the foundation of your next level. There were moments when heaven was silent, not because God wasn't speaking, but because He was watching. He was waiting to see if you'd trust His nature when you couldn't trace His plan. And you did. You kept showing up. You kept doing good without recognition. You kept believing even when you couldn't feel Him. Ask yourself, how many times did you choose faith over frustration, even when it made no sense? That's where the test was passed. Every time you resisted the urge to quit, you declared to the universe, "My loyalty to God isn't based on results. It's based on relationship." Heaven tested your reactions because your reactions reveal your rank. Before God promotes a soul, He proves its posture. And your posture, humble, consistent, and grateful, has spoken louder than any sermon. You didn't chase recognition. You chose righteousness. You didn't demand control. You demonstrated trust. You didn't fight for position. You stayed in purpose. And because of that, heaven is moving you into rooms where integrity matters more than influence. This was never about success by the world's definition. It was about success by heaven's. God was forming a vessel that could carry glory without losing gentleness. He needed to see if you could stand firm without becoming hard. And you did. That's why God is impressed, not with what you did, but with how you did it. With a steady heart, with quiet faith, with unshakable devotion. You didn't react to the world, you responded to heaven. And now, as you step into this new season, the same God who tested your reactions is about to reward your restraint. The doors that were once locked are opening, not because of performance, but because of purity. The test wasn't about the blessing, it was about the becoming. And chosen one, you've become exactly who heaven hoped you would be. How purity of heart became your proof of maturity. Chosen one. In a world where bitterness spreads faster than truth, you kept your heart pure. That's not a small thing. That's spiritual mastery. Heaven isn't impressed by loud prayers or public worship. It's moved by the rare soul who keeps their love clean when life gets dirty. Your maturity wasn't proven by how much you knew. It was proven by how well you loved. When betrayal came, you didn't let it make you cold. When disappointment hit, you didn't stop believing in goodness. When people lied about you, you didn't return fire. You returned silence. That silence was sacred. It said, "I trust God more than I need to defend myself." This is what maturity looks like in the spiritual realm. Not reaction, but restraint. Not hardness, but holiness. The world taught you to protect your heart by building walls. Heaven taught you to protect it by staying open. That's the paradox of purity. It's strong, but it's soft. It feels everything, but it doesn't absorb the poison. Ask yourself, how many times did you choose peace over proving a point? How many times did you cry, but still bless those who hurt you? That's not weakness, that's divine wisdom. Because every time you resisted bitterness, heaven documented it as growth. God has been shaping your heart like a sculptor shapes clay, pressing out pride, smoothing out fear, carving away judgment. Every heartbreak was a tool. Every disappointment was a chisel. Every tear polished the vessel that now holds His glory. You thought you were breaking. You were actually being crafted. The old version of you would have fought back. It would have tried to fix people, force outcomes, demand explanations. But now you've learned that peace isn't found in control. It's found in surrender. You no longer need to win arguments. You just need to win your alignment. That's purity. Heaven looked at your heart through every test and saw one thing. You still care. You still feel. You still love, even after all you've lost. You didn't let pain make you cruel. You didn't let rejection make you resentful. You kept showing up with compassion when you had every reason to close off. Ask yourself, who would you have become if you let the bitterness win? Would you even recognize yourself? That's why God protected your softness, even when it hurt, because your gentle spirit is your greatest weapon. It's what keeps you sensitive to His whispers when the world grows loud. Your purity of heart became your promotion. You may not realize it, but your restraint rewrote your reality. You shifted from reacting emotionally to responding spiritually. You began to understand that vengeance isn't victory, peace is. This purity has changed your energy. People can feel it. You no longer need to say much. Your presence speaks peace. The same ones who once misjudged you will soon feel your glow and wonder what happened. And the answer will be simple. I chose love over bitterness. God is impressed not because you avoided pain, but because you transformed it. You took heartbreak and turned it into humility. You took disappointment and turned it into devotion. You took rejection and turned it into revelation. That's what chosen ones do. They transmute pain into purpose. This is why your heart has become heaven's favorite place to dwell. Because no matter what the enemy sent to poison it, you purified it with prayer. You became a living example of what faith under fire looks like, gentle, grounded, and glowing. And now, heaven can trust you with more. Because if you can stay pure in pain, you can stay pure in power. If you didn't let heartbreak destroy your humility, success won't either. So don't underestimate what you've done. You've mastered what most never do. You've kept your heart clean in a dirty world. And that purity, that's your proof of maturity. That's what heaven calls favor ready. Chosen one, you've obeyed God in silence when no one clapped for you. You've kept walking when the path felt invisible. You followed divine direction even when it cost you comfort. That kind of obedience, the kind that bleeds, the kind that costs, never goes unnoticed in heaven. Obedience under pressure is the highest form of worship. It's not when you say yes to God while everything makes sense. It's when you say yes while your heart breaks. You didn't follow because it was easy. You followed because you trusted His character when you couldn't trace his plan. Heaven saw you in those late nights when your faith felt thin, when your tears fell on the same prayers you'd already prayed 100 times. You wanted to quit, but you didn't. You whispered, "Still, I trust you," when everything screamed, "Stop." That's obedience. That's divine loyalty. That's why this next season is shifting in your favor. God doesn't test obedience to expose weakness. He tests it to release reward. Every act of faith, every surrendered yes, every humble "I'll wait" has been creating movement in the unseen realm. What you didn't see was the army of angels organizing blessings around your endurance. Ask yourself, how many times did you follow peace instead of pressure? How many times did you say no to something good because you knew it wasn't God? That's where heaven smiled. Because obedience isn't about convenience. It's about conviction. You chose alignment over applause. You picked patience over panic. You trusted timing over temptation. Now the rewards are coming, not just in the material, but in the spiritual. There's a peace that's about to settle over you, one that you can't explain. The chaos that used to shake you will now strengthen you. Your discernment will sharpen. Your connections will shift. Doors will open that you didn't even knock on. That's how heaven honors obedience. Sometimes the reward isn't what you receive, it's what you become. You've become more peaceful, more powerful, more prophetic. You see through illusions faster now. You recognize what's yours and what isn't. That clarity is a reward. That peace is a promotion. That stillness is a sign. You're standing exactly where God wants you. You may not even notice it yet, but the energy around you is rearranging. Delays are dissolving. Resistance is releasing. Things that once took years will now take days. The frequency of your obedience has unlocked acceleration. Ask yourself, how many times did you think you lost by obeying, only to realize later that you were being protected? Every no you honored was a trap you avoided. Every redirection you accepted was a detour toward destiny. You didn't miss anything by being faithful. You positioned yourself for everything. Heaven is about to prove that obedience under pressure pays differently. It doesn't return in the same currency. It returns in wisdom, in authority, in divine confidence. You'll begin to notice that you don't chase anymore. Things start finding you. People start recognizing your energy without explanation. That's divine reward manifesting. And just like Job, God is about to restore double, not just what you lost, but what you learned. Every tear became seed, every waiting season became soil, and now the harvest is inevitable. The same ground that hurt you will soon bless you. You passed the hardest test of all, obedience when it didn't feel fair. And because of that, your name has been spoken in heaven's courts. You're not just favored, you're approved. So don't wonder when blessings start flowing without effort. Don't be surprised when things align faster than you expected. It's not luck, it's law. The spiritual law of obedience says, if you endure with trust, you'll emerge with treasure. And chosen one, your treasure is near. The pressure was the proof. The obedience was the key. And now, the reward is on its way. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You didn't obey to earn. You obeyed to honor. And heaven never forgets an obedient heart. Chosen one, Heaven's approval doesn't come with applause. It comes with alignment. And lately, everything in your life has been shifting to show you that you've been approved. You may not have heard a trumpet sound, but the signs are everywhere. In your peace, your perspective, and the strange separation that's been happening around you. When heaven approves you, people change. You start losing invitations that once excited you. You outgrow rooms that once fed you. You begin craving silence more than attention. That's not isolation. That's sanctification. God is pulling you into His confidence, into His rhythm, away from the noise of the crowd. You've been noticing it, haven't you? The things that used to trigger you don't anymore. The arguments that once drained you now bore you. The desire to prove yourself has died quietly inside you. That's a sign. Heaven approves of you when the external no longer controls your internal. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt misunderstood, but didn't rush to explain yourself? When was the last time you chose peace over being right? That's evidence that your spirit has matured. Heaven can't promote a soul that still needs validation from the world. You're past that now. Heaven's approval often feels like rejection from the world. That's why it's confusing. You thought you were losing, but God was separating. The distance, the silence, the shift in relationships, it wasn't punishment, it was proof. Proof that heaven was rearranging your environment to match your elevation. You started craving truth more than comfort. You began feeling uncomfortable around chaos. You can't even fake your old life anymore, so it doesn't fit. You try to go back to old patterns, and they collapse instantly. That's what divine approval does. It closes every door that's beneath your calling. Ask yourself, why does it feel like every time you try to fit in, something pushes you out? Why do you feel unseen yet deeply guided? Because heaven hides what it values until the right moment. You're being preserved, not overlooked. You're being protected, not rejected. Heaven's approval doesn't just shift your surroundings, it shifts your spirit. Suddenly you feel a quiet confidence, not arrogance, but assurance. You stop worrying about timing because you can feel that divine rhythm under your feet. You start trusting the pauses just as much as the progress. That peace, that's the signature of approval. You'll notice synchronicities everywhere. Numbers repeating, doors opening easily, certain names or phrases following you. These aren't coincidences, they're confirmations. Heaven speaks in patterns when it's preparing a promotion. And even when nothing seems to move on the outside, you'll feel the movement on the inside. A deep, quiet knowing that you don't need to force what's already yours. That stillness is spiritual authority. It means heaven trusts you with power because you've proven you won't misuse it. Chosen one, the approval you carry can't be bought or borrowed. It's earned through endurance, through choosing light when the world offered shadows. It's in how you handled betrayal, in how you forgave what you could have fought. It's in how you blessed your enemies instead of exposing them. That's why heaven can now trust you with visibility. Because you learned how to stay humble in hiddenness, you learned to pray instead of post. You learned to protect your peace instead of proving your point. You've been refined in silence, and now the world will see your radiance. Remember this, when heaven approves you, opposition increases, not to stop you, but to announce you. The resistance is recognition. The warfare around you is confirmation that something divine has been sealed for you. You've been marked, chosen one. Not because you're perfect, but because you're prepared. You're ready to carry what others couldn't. You're ready to build what others broke. You're ready to lead without losing your light. So don't question the strange peace that's replaced your old panic. Don't doubt the distance between you and what you once desired. Heaven's approval doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like serenity. You've been approved, not by men, but by God. And when heaven stamps its seal on your life, no rejection can erase it. This is your confirmation. You passed the test. You earned the trust. And now the heavens are moving on your behalf. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of approval. And chosen one, that approval is about to speak loudly through your next season. Chosen one, the season of hiddenness is ending. The silence you've endured wasn't abandonment. It was alignment. While you thought nothing was happening, heaven was building a stage you couldn't see. Every quiet moment, every unseen act of faith, every tear that fell in private was constructing your public unveiling. For too long, you've walked unnoticed, carrying light that the world wasn't ready to handle. But heaven has been preparing the right moment. And it's close. The reason the warfare has been intense lately is because visibility attracts resistance. The enemy always fights the loudest when heaven is about to announce something. Ask yourself, why have your dreams been feeling more vivid lately? Why have you been waking up with urgency in your spirit as if something big is about to shift? That's because heaven has begun your unveiling. The divine clock has struck your hour. The things that once seemed delayed are now divinely timed. God has been setting you apart for this. Every season of silence had a purpose. It stripped away everything that couldn't stand the weight of what's coming. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was sacred refinement. Heaven was shaping your heart to carry influence without losing innocence. You had to learn obedience before exposure. You had to learn faith before fame. You had to learn humility before honor. Because heaven doesn't promote to impress. It promotes to impact. And chosen one, the impact your life is about to have will shake dimensions. You've been entrusted with a light that isn't meant to stay hidden anymore. The same people who overlooked you will soon witness what God hid inside you. They'll call it sudden, but heaven will call it scheduled. Ask yourself, how many times did you feel forgotten? Yet something deep inside whispered, keep going. That whisper was God's reminder that He was working behind the curtain. Every delay was a setup for dramatic timing. Every closed door was God making sure your unveiling would happen on His stage, not theirs. When heaven reveals you, it doesn't need an audience. It creates one. Doors will open you didn't even knock on. People will begin to mention your name in rooms you've never entered. Divine connections will start aligning like puzzle pieces falling into place, and none of it will make sense because it's supernatural. This next chapter of your life will be a demonstration, not just a declaration. Your presence will speak before you do. The peace you carry will shift atmospheres. The authority in your voice will pierce confusion. You'll start walking into spaces and feel the unseen move. That's what happens when heaven reveals someone who's passed every test. Your unveiling isn't about popularity, it's about purpose. You've been trained to stand in the spotlight without seeking it, to carry visibility without vanity, to shine not for attention, but for awakening. That's why the weight felt unbearable before, because heaven was strengthening you to carry glory, not just gifts. Many crave the light, but few survive the heat. You've survived it. That's why your time is now. There's a moment coming soon when what was hidden will become undeniable. The quiet years will make sense. The pain will look like prophecy. The scars will turn into signs. People will ask, how did this happen so fast? But you'll know it wasn't fast. It was faithful. God never forgot you. He was saving you for a moment when your story would speak louder than any sermon. You are about to become a walking testimony that patience pays, that purity protects, that purpose always prevails. Chosen one, prepare yourself. The world is about to see what heaven already celebrated. The unveiling won't require you to strive. It will require you to stand. You don't have to chase what's coming. You just have to stay still enough to receive it. Because heaven doesn't reveal those who hustle. It reveals those who heal. Your hidden years were holy years. Your silence was sacred training. And now heaven whispers, step forward. It's time. Why exposure will require even greater humility. Chosen one, before heaven reveals a soul, it measures its depth. Because visibility without humility destroys more than it builds. That's why God took so long to prepare you. He wasn't just crafting your voice, he was anchoring your heart. The world will soon see your light, but heaven is watching for something deeper. Will you stay low while you rise? Will you remember who carried you when no one clapped? Will you still kneel in prayer when you finally stand in your promise? Ask yourself, how many times did God test your pride by sending you back to help those who once ignored you? How many times did He make you serve quietly when you were ready to shine? Those were divine rehearsals for this very moment. Because true promotion in heaven always comes disguised as service. You see, humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking more of God. It's knowing that the very breath behind your breakthrough doesn't belong to you. Every opportunity that's about to open is grace, not coincidence. Every platform that's coming is stewardship, not status. Heaven trusts you now because you learned to let go of the need to be seen. You learned that validation from men fades, but validation from God sustains. You learned that favor isn't for showing off. It's for showing up with compassion, with gentleness, with truth. And as exposure increases, so will temptation, not of sin, but of self. The enemy can't stop your rise, but he'll try to distort your reason. He'll whisper that you earned this, that you deserve it, that you're the source of your own success. But chosen one, remember, the moment you forget who lifted you, you begin to fall. Ask yourself, will you let attention distract you from the assignment? Will you let applause replace intimacy? God is reminding you even now, stay low, so I can lift you higher. Heaven doesn't exalt the proud, it expands the humble. The more visibility you gain, the more invisibility you'll need in prayer. The higher you go, the deeper your roots must grow. Because you're not being revealed to shine for yourself. You're being revealed to reflect Him. The same humility that kept you safe in the storm will now keep you steady in success. You'll feel the pull to rush, to speak, to claim. But your power will remain in stillness. People will ask how you stay so calm in the spotlight, and you'll know it's because your heart stayed hidden in God. This exposure will test your motives. Will you serve for love or for likes? Will you create for calling or for clout? The world will tempt you to brand your gift, but heaven will remind you to bless with it. That's why God didn't rush your process. He needed to make sure your character could carry the crown. Many crave influence but can't sustain the integrity it demands. You, however, were built in silence. Your humility was hammered into place like gold, refined by fire. And now, as your voice grows louder, your spirit must grow quieter. Every word must come from a place of worship, not performance. Every opportunity must pass through prayer before it passes through your hands. Because what God is building through you isn't entertainment, it's eternal. The light that's about to shine on you is heavy, but humility will make it holy. It will remind you that it's not your job to be adored. It's your job to awaken. Chosen one, heaven didn't prepare you to become famous. It prepared you to become faithful. And as long as your heart stays low, no height will ever break you. The key to thriving in exposure is remembering who found you in obscurity. And the one who hid you in the shadows is the same one now calling your name into the light. So rise quietly, shine humbly, and let every blessing point back to the one who gave it. Chosen one. This next chapter of your life won't require striving. It will require surrender. The door that's about to open isn't one you'll force. It's one heaven has already unlocked. You won't have to knock this time. It will swing open because your name has already been spoken in divine places. For years you've been faithful in the quiet, obedient in the unknown, steadfast in the unseen. Every no that broke your heart, every delay that tested your patience, every prayer that went unanswered, it was all leading you here. The waiting wasn't punishment, it was positioning. God was teaching you how to walk by trust, not by tension. How to wait with grace, not frustration, because the next door isn't just an opportunity. It's a divine alignment. It's the place where everything finally makes sense. Ask yourself, why do you feel this sudden calm, as if something big is near? Why does your spirit sense movement even when your eyes see stillness? That's not imagination. That's confirmation. Heaven is rearranging things quietly, and soon what's been hidden will become visible. This time, you won't need to chase. You won't need to explain. You won't need to beg anyone to believe in you. The evidence will speak for itself. The favor will flow naturally because your frequency finally matches your future. You've become what you've been praying for, and heaven rewards becoming more than requesting. You used to knock on doors that never opened, thinking something was wrong with you. But heaven was saying, that's not your door. Every rejection was redirection. Every closed path was protection. And now, the right one will open on its own. You'll know it's divine because it won't come with confusion. The energy will feel light. The people involved will feel familiar to your spirit. The process will flow, not force. That's how you'll recognize the difference between opportunity and assignment. Ask yourself, how many times did you try to open something that God was still sealing? How many times did He stop you just before you settled? He wasn't withholding. He was waiting for your readiness, Because heaven doesn't open doors to impress you, it opens them to advance you. And now, you've reached that alignment. You've proven your loyalty. You've shown heaven that you can handle silence, that you can wait without whining, that you can obey without an audience. That's what turned the key. This new door isn't just about access, it's about authority. You're stepping into a space where your words will carry weight, your presence will shift atmospheres, and your spirit will command attention without you having to demand it. You've earned this through endurance. Remember this: the door didn't open because of effort. It opened because of evolution. You grew into it. Heaven couldn't let it swing before your spirit was strong enough to stand it inside it. But now, you're ready. When it opens, walk through quietly. Don't rush, don't announce, just move. Because this isn't a season for proving, it's a season for positioning. People will wonder how it all happened so suddenly. They'll ask, who helped you? Who opened this for you? And you'll smile knowing the truth. God did. He opened what no man could close. He aligned what no force could break. This is the moment your faith has been rehearsing for. The lock is turning. The hinges are shifting. The light is spilling through the cracks. You can feel it. Your spirit already knows. The next door is opening. You won't need to knock. You won't need to chase. You'll simply walk through. Because when heaven approves your assignment, access becomes automatic. The key was your character. The password was your patience. And now, chosen one, your promise is calling your name. Step forward. The door is open. And this time, it opens for you.